Welcome to the Successful Life Podcast. I'm your host, Corey Berrier. This show is your go-to resource for real stories, expert insights, and proven strategies that empower you to break free from addiction, rebuild your life, and become the strongest version of yourself, physically, mentally, and emotionally. Each week, I'll bring you conversations with guests and thought leaders who have walked the path of recovery and personal growth. Whether you're navigating sobriety, seeking mental clarity, or building daily discipline, you're in the right place. Let's get into today's episode. And don't forget to leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify to help others find the show.
It's Corey Berrier, yeah, come learn with me. Take you down the path of our journeys. This is the successful life. It's time to take what you learned, apply it to your life. It's your turn to live a successful life. You are tuning in to the Successful Life Podcast. 3, 2, 1, let's go.
Welcome to the Successful Life Podcast. I'm your host, Corey Berrier. And today, folks, we're going to talk about relapse. What happens when you have a relapse? What happened when I relapsed? Because listen, relapse does not have to be a part of your story, but often it is a part of your story. And, the truth of the matter is when I relapsed, I didn't put in the work that I was told to put in. I had a mask over my face in front of you, in front of the next person, in front of the next person, in front of the next person. And man, it was pretty exhausting. And about 3 months into me getting sober the first time, which was early 2009, I remember sitting on the couch. I had a roommate, and I was supposed to go to a meeting that night, and I just got up, went to the store, and bought 6 beers. Now, if you're not a recovered or recovering alcoholic, this is going to make absolutely no sense to you. In fact, you are probably going to question the sanity of what I'm about to tell you, because the truth of the matter is, it is insane. We call this cunning, baffling, and powerful. And I was sitting on that couch. I was supposed to go to a meeting that night, and I just got up, went to the store as if it was 3 months prior to that, before I had stopped drinking. And I went and I bought 6 beers. I came back home, continued watching the football game. And about 3 beers in, I realized what had happened. And if you've ever tried to be sober for 90 days, it is not an easy path. It's not an easy 90 days, because the pull that you feel inside of your body when you're trying to put down alcohol is the worst pull I've ever had in my life. It's the biggest struggle I've ever had in my life. I drank for 15 years. I can't remember how long it was at the time, but I drank for a very long time, pretty consistently, and lots of times sun up to sundown. And that wasn't the case at this moment in time in my life. I wasn't drinking sun up to sundown, but I was drinking every day. And that alcohol becomes a friend. Becomes a friend when you do something cool and fun, you drink. Becomes your friend when you get bad news or someone passes, you drink. Hell, if you're me, I just drank because I was bored. But along, along my journey, alcohol was always there. And it didn't matter how many times I got arrested, didn't matter how many DUIs I had. Yeah, was I remorseful, after those things happened? Of course. And did I want to get out of trouble by saying I'm going to quit drinking? Absolutely. Did I mean it? Unequivocally, without a doubt, not. I mean, I probably did mean it at the time. And I think every time you say to yourself, I'm going to stop drinking, or I'm going to stop smoking cigarettes, or I'm going to put this vape down, or I'm going to stop eating sugar, or I'm going to start exercising, or I'm going to change my habits because I know I'm going down a dark road. And that dark road could be food. It could be alcohol. It could be pornography. It could be fill in the blank. It could be anything. And maybe ask yourself how many times you've quit a thing and then the next day you went right back to that thing because it was just too hard to put down, or it was too easy to start again the next day. I know for me, I've had several of these battles in my life, whether it be women or whether it be cigarettes or whether it be alcohol or whether it be weed or whether it be whatever, fill in the blank. And, for me, every time I break a promise to myself, I disappoint myself. I let myself down. And what happens is breaking those small promises to myself compound over time. And those small things become bigger things. Those small actions that I decide not to take because today's not going to be the day, I'm going to do it tomorrow. That tomorrow turns into next week, next month, and next year. And then what's the point? Because I've already let myself down so many times, I don't even trust myself. I don't even trust myself when I make promises to myself that I can't keep. I lose all trust in me. And that's a hard pill to swallow. And so I went through that, for years. There were years that I didn't want to stop drinking, that alcohol was my friend. But I want to tell you, and I want to be so clear about this, alcoholics don't want to drink. I think a lot of people believe, or a lot of people have the opinion that well, if you're losing your house and your wife and your kids hate your guts, you're on the verge of losing your job. Why don't you just quit, dude? Well, you could just quit today and all those things would probably fix themselves, but it's not that easy. Unfortunately, if you're not an addict, if you don't have addictive qualities in your life or addictive personality like I do, sometimes you can't quit. Sometimes you literally cannot read the label on the bottle because you're inside the bottle and you're stuck in a place that's impossible to get out. And normal people will say, why can't you just put it down? Dude, if an alcoholic could just put it down, they would. They don't want to keep drinking. They don't want to keep having the consequences they're having. They don't want to keep breaking promises to themselves. But that's where the addiction comes in. The addiction to the thing that you can't put down is powerful. It's so strong that it feels like it's got like someone's got their hands around your neck and they won't let go, and you can't breathe and there's nothing you can do. And the only thing that will release that pressure and that pain and that struggle is another drink or another donut or another relationship or another drug. You see, when people are addicted to drugs and alcohol, they are really looking for relief from themselves. They're looking for a solution out of what they're feeling. And alcohol and drugs are a good solution to not feel what you're feeling. And you may not realize that you're trying to cover up some sort of pain. Maybe you're, air quotes, stressed out at work, so you drink at night. Maybe your wife is a bitch and you drink at night. The truth of the matter is, your job doesn't have anything to do with you drinking at night. Your wife doesn't have anything to do with you drinking at night. It's the person looking in the mirror that has everything to do with why you drink at night. And you talk about a hard truth. To have to admit that it's my fault, to admit that it's my fault that I do the things that I do, absolutely not. It's not my fault. It's somebody else's fault. I'm going to blame somebody else all day long when I'm in addiction. A relationship ends, it's her fault. I drink, it's their fault. If your wife was like mine, you drink too. I'm sure there's people listening to this show right now that have said that very thing. If you were in the situation that I'm in right now, you would drink too. And life situations are hard. They're hard to deal with, but they're much easier to deal with when you could pour a little liquor on top of it or smoke a little dope in the afternoon just to, take the edge off until it stops working. And so the alcohol in my life stopped working. It became all I thought about every single day. What I was going to drink when I got home. Do I have enough at home? Do I need to stop at the store? Those things consume my mind. If I'm going to a restaurant, do they have the alcohol I want? Because if they don't have alcohol, you can forget it. I'm not going, right? I'm not interested in having dinner with anybody when I'm in active addiction if there's no alcohol there, because, that's the primary focus. And, look, alcohol's pretty sociably acceptable, and but it is cunning, baffling, and powerful. And so I did decide to, and this was in 2009 when I quit drinking for good. I had a couple of DUIs and talked my way into getting my license back here in North Carolina. And I had to have this thing in my car that I had to blow into in order for the car to start. Pretty damn unmanageable. But I was just grateful. I felt like I was grateful just to have a North Carolina driver's license again. But the alcohol was so powerful that I drank again after knowing the consequences of that were catastrophic in a way that I may lose my license for the rest of my life and go to jail for God knows how long. Like my life, my future was on the line. And I drank anyway. Because I could drink just enough to not blow into that thing the next morning and set it off. Well, that's not how it turned out. And so one morning, I knew in the pit of my stomach things were about to go sideways, but I would manipulate myself, lie to myself, and say, hey, it's going to be fine. You're going to be fine. Like, it's not going to happen this time. And then tonight you won't drink and you won't have to worry about this tomorrow. But today you're going to be okay. But in the pit of my stomach, when something bad's about to happen, was there. But I pushed it down because I didn't want to listen to that voice. And I had to be at work. So I blew into it. and it set it off. And that sends a direct message to the North Carolina DMV. It says, hey, you got one. And so the car gets locked out. You can't start it. And then you got to have somebody take you down to the DMV and explain what happened. And that was the scariest day that I've had in a long, long time. And so I explained to this lady, and I lied, of course, because if I told her I drank after I just told her, 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago that I had quit drinking for good, and I was basically the Pope. I lied and said I had eaten some Caribbean food, and it was not a proud moment, but I was caught. I didn't know what else to do. And at the time, lying was a smart thing for me to, it was like second nature. It was kind of the only choice. Thankfully, I don't do that anymore. Thankfully, I don't lie anymore. Not intentionally, for sure. And so this lady said to me, hey, I'm going to let you go. But if I ever see you in here again, you'll never drive on the streets of North Carolina ever again in your life. Do you understand me? This lady was big old black lady. I mean, she was a scary, scary, scary woman. She was probably 6'2". I mean, she was enormous. And when I walked out of there that day, I decided I was never going to put another drop of alcohol in my body, and I didn't, and I haven't. But the story doesn't end there. I went to the recovery program, and I felt like I was doing the steps, and I felt like I was doing the right thing, and I felt like I was involved. And the truth of the matter was, I only showed people what I wanted them to see. And that kept me dishonest. I would lie by omission. I mean, I may have just lied anyway. I don't know. Who knows at the time? It's been a long time ago. But the point is like, I wore that mask for the next 7 years. I mean, I was fairly heavily involved. I felt like started a recovery meeting, and of course, I was the star of the show with that meeting, and so it fed my ego, and I had arrived, and quickly it got to the point. I say quickly, after about 7 years, that's when I decided that I didn't need to go to recovery anymore. And I slowly started smoking weed every now and then it got a little bit more often, and it got a little more often, until eventually I didn't need recovery anymore. This program that had given me a life beyond imagination. I had just bought a brand new house. I was newly married. I had sold a business and started another business. And I was happy. And, we had 2 brand new cars in the driveway. I mean, life was really, really dope. It was really good. And I decided that, what? I got this. I don't need to keep going to these stupid meetings. I don't need to keep going to these stupid meetings. I just don't. I don't need it. I'm busy at work. I'm running this business. It's taking all my time. And I just don't have time for it. And so I stopped going. And then, over the next 7 years, as I continued to smoke more and more weed, I became completely spiritually disconnected. And to the point where, I had to hit my knees and beg for God to show me what to do, because I was out of options. I had tried everything. My wife and I were fighting like crazy. This was, I guess this was going into tail end of 2021. going into 2022. Maybe that's opposite. Maybe it's tail end of 2022 going into 2023. And life just wasn't good, dude. I was very unhappy with myself. I was very unhappy with the marriage, and it had nothing to do with her. She tried her best. But, I was a total train wreck. And for all those years, I didn't even consider getting back into the recovery program that had given me all those things back and more until, some things happened that I'm not going to get into here within our family. And I tried to do everything I could do to get an answer as to what happened. And the truth is, I never got that answer. But it was driving me absolutely insane. And the sheer unmanageability and lack of control in my life was the worst it's ever been. And I hadn't even drank. I was so spun out. Hey there, quick reminder. If you're enjoying the Successful Life podcast, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Right now, only 53% of our listeners are subscribed. And that means nearly half of you might miss out on new episodes as soon as they drop. Subscribing is free. It helps us grow, and it ensures you stay up to date with every insight-packed conversation. So pause for a second, hit subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you're listening. And let's keep building that successful life together. I was me with untreated alcoholism. And listen, it's called alcoholism, not alcoholism. Everything that I have to do things on a daily basis every day to keep what I've got, to stay sober, to be a recovered alcoholic. And finally I had the crap scared out of me. I had already been going back into the recovery program at this time, which was March 26, 2023 is my sobriety date. But I was still smoking weed and, trying to do my thing and, living a total lie. And I knew that. I knew I was living a lie. But I was just I was just not willing yet to put it down. I wasn't willing to admit that I was powerless over this substance and that my life was completely unmanageable. Until one night I was leaving a meeting and I'd hit my weed pen and almost ran through two red lights almost back to back going 70 miles an hour. And it scared the daylights out of me. It scared me to death. And I knew at that moment I really didn't want that third strike, and I knew it was coming if I didn't make a change. And so I tossed that pen out the window, and I haven't picked it back up since. And this has been a tough little over 2.5 years for various reasons. I've gone through divorce. I've sold a house. I've changed jobs a couple of times, and through all of that, I haven't felt the need to pick up a drink or a drug. I rely on people that are sober around me to help me when I need help. And there's nothing like it in the world. And I wish everybody had the same thing or the same opportunities that I've had to look inward at myself, look at my childhood traumas, fix some of those things, realize why I make the decisions that I make, and it takes a whole lot of work to do that. And I'm not here to brag by any stretch, because I have not arrived, but I'm a little bit better than I was yesterday. And God willing, I'm going to get through today sober. And God willing, I'm going to continue this journey. You know, I'll share a quick story with you. I went and did a training on Sunday called transcendental meditation, and I've always thought, well, yeah, I meditate. You know, I listen to some stuff and probably fall asleep. So not, I didn't really know much about meditation, but that is, part of the deal is prayer and meditation. And it's something I haven't focused a whole lot on, and so I decided to go learn from a private teacher on Sunday. And it's really wild. It's wild what's happened just in the last 4 days. Now, this is not an overnight fix. This is not a solution to all your problems. But it's a piece of the puzzle that I was missing. And I meditate twice a day for 20 minutes each time. And I'm not going to go into the specifics of how it's done and all that stuff. You can look into it if you want to, or you can just do it on your own, or whatever you feel like you need to do. You know, and I tried doing it on my own, but that didn't really work. Like a lot of things in my life, when I try to do them on my own, I'm not very successful. But when I ask for help and I'm willing to accept that help and be open-minded and realize I don't know everything. I don't know jack shit when it comes to a lot of things. You know, I've learned just to be honest and say, you know, I just don't have the answers. And I'm not sure there's anything else that I can really do. Sometimes it's just open my mind and ask for help, ask for God's guidance. And here's the crazy part. If I ask for God's guidance and I allow Him to work in my life, that's when things get a bit easier. That's when things become a little clearer. But as soon as I want to take back that control and try to run things my way, the show doesn't come off very well. And you know, some days I do that. Some days I take my will back and I decide I'm going to do it my way. I'm going to stress out about this thing. I'm going to control the outcome of this thing. I'm going to have expectations on this human being that's going to let me down. And then I can have a resentment. And it's a cycle. And it's hard to get out of that cycle, but I can assure you, once you see the results of practicing these things in all areas of your life, it changes. And I can't explain it. I don't know what the secret sauce is. So I have to do all the pieces that make up the sauce, because I'm not sure which one today is going to be the one that works. And so I am fairly disciplined in all areas of my life. I'm disciplined with my diet. I'm disciplined with my exercise. I'm disciplined with work. I'm disciplined with my recovery. And it's not easy. It's a lot of balls to juggle. But man, it's a lot easier than trying to do it on my own. And I think my message today to you is, if you are struggling with some sort of addiction, you know, there's 1,000 12-step programs out there that you can look into. Now, I can't speak but on a couple of them, because I haven't been in all of them. But I know where I found the solution. And that's in a program of recovery. And, you know, the other thing that I think is really important is it's very lonely when you're in addiction. And I mean, when I say lonely, it is a very isolated dark place. And there's one thing that I love about being in recovery is the community aspect of it. You know, I used to hate going to meetings because I was always looking to see what I'd get out of it. And now I look forward to going to meetings because I like to give back. And sometimes I don't give back by sharing or talking or, sharing. Sometimes I'm able to give back by just listening. And sometimes that's my part in that particular environment that day. I just need to listen. And you'll know when the right time is for you to talk. And you don't need to force it. You don't need to be the shining star of the room. You don't need to be the leader of the crazy bus. You don't need to be the king of the castle. You don't need to be the damn cool kid in a group of people that are trying to recover from drugs and alcohol. You just don't. But a lot of people think we do. And I fell into that trap for sure when I first got in. You know, I thought I needed to say the right thing so you would hear me and think I'm cool and like me and accept me in. It just does the opposite of that because the people that have been there for longer than you realize you're full of shit, man. And you don't realize that until you've been around the block for a minute. But once you do realize that, you take somebody under your wing and you start working with them and you can kind of guide them in a way that nobody maybe guided you, or maybe they tried to guide you and you didn't listen, which is probably what happened with me, because I knew everything. I didn't need to be there. I wasn't one of these guys that needed this program. And boy, was I wrong about that. Boy, was I wrong about that. It was, it's very humbling to tell somebody that you're an alcoholic. It's hard to do because everything inside of you says, I'm not that person. But likely, if you're in a room of recovering people, you're that person. And guess what? Everybody else in that room, whether they look like you or they don't, they're just like you. You're all there for the same reason, and that's to figure out how to stop drinking and live a better life. And the benefits that come from that are massive. And so if you've enjoyed this conversation today, I would encourage you to share it with somebody that may need to hear it. Share it in one of the recovery Facebook groups because there's a lot of people in there that are struggling. They'll get a day or two sober and then they relapse. Or they'll have 30 days sober and they're on top of the world and then they relapse. Or maybe they have 6 months or a year or 6 years and they relapse. Those people need help too. Everybody needs help in some area of their life. You just got to be willing to ask for it and accept it. And that's a hard thing to do. If you're a man, it's a hard thing to do to ask another man for help. But it's the most liberating thing you'll ever do. Because when you open up and you allow people in and they can see your true self, you take the mask off. People then can help you. And people do want to help you, no matter what you might think. It's the highlight of my day when I have somebody call with a problem and I can listen to that problem or that issue or that struggle and share my experience, strength and hope with them in hopes that they can see themselves inside of me and that my story maybe helps them not feel so bad about themselves, because that's happened to me a million times. And I think to myself, I don't want to call this person and tell them I'm heartbroken. I don't want to call this person and tell them I lost my job. I don't want to call this person and tell them I am on the struggle bus. But without a doubt, when I do, I get I get exactly what I need. And, at first I do feel like a burden sometimes, but at the end of the day, it never turns out that way. When you want to if you decide you're going to reach out to someone, you're going to help them more than they're going to help you. And that's also a hard concept to grasp. But take it from a guy that's sat in the pain and not picked up the phone and called someone. And also from the same guy that decided I didn't want to feel this pain anymore. So I pick up the phone and I call people and I share with them where I'm at and how I'm feeling. Because that's the solution for me. And I'm not saying they always say what I want to hear, because that's not the case. I call people that are going to tell me the truth. And sometimes that truth is hard to hear. So please share this with somebody that you think needs to hear it. I appreciate you guys. Subscribe to the podcast if you haven't already. If you enjoyed this, leave us a review. And check out that TM meditation. It's really, really dope. It's called Transcendental Meditation. And there is something about it that's special. So guys, I appreciate you. This drops every Friday morning at 4 a.m. sharp. And we'll see you next week. That's a wrap for today's episode of the Successful Life Podcast. If you found value in this conversation, make sure you subscribe so you never miss an episode at successfullifepodcast.com. And if you're enjoying the show, we'd love for you to leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcast. It really helps us reach more people looking to build a successful life. Stay focused, stay driven, and we'll see you next time.
If you took anything away from this podcast, make sure you subscribe, leave a review, and go check out some other episodes on successfullifepodcast.com. This is the Successful Life.